Thanks for tuning in. I'm Gadi Schwartz, coming to you from Los Angeles, and we are following breaking news this hour out of Wisconsin. A deadly shooting at a Christian school has rocked the community in Madison. Our Shaq Brewster is live on the ground there with what police are saying tonight. Plus, the drone drama continues in the Northeast. If you think the sightings cooled off over the weekend, think again. Now, lawmakers, including President-elect Trump, are calling out the Biden administration.
For some reason, they don't want to comment. And I think they'd be better off saying what it is. Our military knows and our president knows.
And in video, you've got to see to believe. A stranded jet skier is lifted to safety where rescue crews found that Florida man after an intense search. Those are just some of the biggest stories we've been tracking all day, so let's get into this. This is Stay Tuned Now. And breaking tonight, a student and a teacher are dead after a school shooting in Wisconsin. Police are saying the teen shooter is also dead. Now, we also know that 2 other kids are in the hospital tonight, and we're being told that both are in critical condition. That shooting happening at a K-12 private Christian school in Madison, Wisconsin, where it has been a very long and very heartbreaking day for that entire community.
Did you get a chance to speak with your daughter?
I did have a brief second that I did get to talk to her.
And what was that like?
Surreal. You don't think you're gonna go through this.
Every teacher in every school, every parent can imagine the horror.
Another school shooting in the United States, and people are now knowing the name Madison, Wisconsin.
He said he saw children, about 40 of them, with their hands up, walking and ducking, coming to this church for safety. I see 4 very good dogs in vests headed into the church. Now, this is where children are right now.
Stop the threat, stop the killing, find the killer. That's how we train, and that's exactly what we did today.
Another school shooting is such a terrible phrase. Shaq Brewster joins us from Madison. Shaq, first off, how are those 2 kids in the hospital doing tonight? Any update on their condition?
Yeah, Gadi, the latest update that we got is that there are 2 students in the hospital in critical condition, facing life-threatening injuries. We did get a statement from the hospital that essentially praised the first responders who helped rush folks to the hospital. One thing that we heard from the chief in a press conference, a couple of press conferences earlier today, is that there were actually a team of medics that were just a couple of miles from the hospital preparing for a mass incident like the one they saw today. So they essentially dropped what they were doing in that training and rushed toward the school to help that recovery and help that response. Meanwhile, this is a community that is definitely heartbroken. I'm in front of what was the reunification center, the place where parents were reunited with their students. That process has now been completed, but the city is saying that essentially everyone who was in that school was a victim of some sort. When you look at mental health, and they're saying that they're offering mental health services to the entire community tonight, Gadi.
Yeah, our thoughts go out to those students. So what do police know about this shooter? Have they talked to the parents or searched his house yet?
Well, yeah, they have made contact with the suspected shooter, the family of the suspected shooter. They say that the parents are cooperating and talking with them, though they're not detailing the extent of those conversations. We do know that investigators are talking to witnesses. They're going through some surveillance video at the school, and they're executing search warrants. And one of those locations is the home of the parents of the suspected shooter that we believe. There's a heavy police presence outside. It's still being blocked off. We'll actually get an update from police a little bit later this evening. They say not only will they give more information to the status of their investigation, but they previewed that we should be able to know then the name of the shooter, the age and gender of the suspected shooter. They still say at last update they do not have any idea of the motive, nor do they know how the suspected shooter got their hands on the weapon that was used, Gadi.
And we'll be checking back for an update. Shaq Brewster in Madison tonight. Shaq, thank you. And now to the latest in what is up with all these drones. And there is a lot to cover. First off, do not shoot them. Do not point lasers at them. A bunch of federal officials say at least some of these objects are airplanes or helicopters being flown by live human pilots. And an FBI office in New Jersey just put out a bulletin about the same concern. People thinking planes are drones and then blinding pilots with lasers or shooting at pilots in the sky. Now, as to what's going on with the drones today, well, President-elect Donald Trump has entered the chat.
Our military knows and our president knows. And for some reason, they want to keep people in suspense. I can't imagine it's the enemy, because if it was the enemy, they'd blast it out. Something strange is going on. For some reason, they don't want to tell the people, and they should.
Okay, so as for what we can confirm, look, we ask the questions and we have reporters out trying to see things for themselves. But the most recent answer from the DOD is we don't know. But whoever is behind this does not seem to be stopping.
Hey, Center, Horizon 2207. Got time for a question?
Horizon Air 2207, go ahead.
Something's flying. It's not satellites because they're changing direction. It's just strange looking. I've seen this a few times over the last month in the same area.
Horizon Air 2207, Roger. How far out at your 10 o'clock in? Are they at a similar altitude as you?
It's really hard to tell. They seem quite far and probably the same altitude or higher.
Yeah, super sketchy there. Again, some of these are going to be planes, misidentified, and all the hype, the confusion, the confirmation bias, but it's not all explainable. The truly mysterious drones that are flying shut down Ohio's Wright-Patterson airspace over one of the biggest Air Force bases in the country for a few hours this weekend. It also closed runways at an airport in New York, and out in Boston, 2 guys were arrested for allegedly flying a drone too close to Logan Airport. To say it's complicated is an understatement. So here's NBC's Tom Costello with what we do know right now.
Tonight, the flashing lights from thousands of reported drone sightings across the Northeast may be coming into clearer focus. Homeland Security says infrared technology is now helping police on the ground identify drones in the air. In New Jersey, the epicenter for most drone sightings for nearly a month, lawmakers continue demanding answers.
I won't let the federal government insult the American people and claim they aren't seeing things that they're seeing with their own 2 eyes.
Over the weekend, an FBI official said there had been more than 5,000 reported sightings, but only 100 warranted review. The vast majority appear to have been planes, helicopters, and legitimate drone operations, though President-elect Trump today suggested the government or military knows more about the drones than they're saying.
Something strange is going on. For some reason, they don't want to tell the people.
We have not identified anything anomalous or any national security or public safety risk over the civilian airspace in New Jersey or other states in the Northeast.
Meanwhile, a company specializing in drone radar, Robin Radar, is now working with state police in New Jersey.
How small of a target of a drone can you identify?
Yeah, so we can, everything in radar comes down to how big it is, what's it made of, how fast is it moving.
Because drones fly so low, FAA aviation radar typically doesn't spot them. FBI and FAA officials have said most drone sightings appear to line up with airport takeoff and landing patterns, suggesting the public might be mistaking regular air traffic, even passing satellites, for drones. Drones are legal in daylight and nighttime. The FAA requires they remain under 400 feet. They must stay at least 5 miles from airports and restricted areas, be in the line of sight of the drone operator, and the drone operator must have a license for larger drones and any commercial activity. Like other news organizations, NBC News uses drones for our news gathering. According to FAA regulations, we have a white strobe flashing on top. Planes, on the other hand, have white strobes on the wings, a solid red, a solid green light, and then a flashing red. Former FBI counter-drone chief Rob D'Amico.
They're 400 feet below, they have their lights on, and they can see the drone. There's nothing illegal about it. Even if it's over your own property, you don't own the airspace.
Most drones have less than 30 minutes of battery life and limited range.
It's hard to deny that there's a lot of rules out there, and some people will follow them, some people won't.
Thanks, Tom. And joining us now is our friend and NBC's Maya Eaglin, who spent the weekend drone hunting in New Jersey. Maya, first off, what did you see?
Hey, Gadi, I saw some objects that appeared to be drones. I was with the Ocean County Sheriff's Department in Seaside Heights, New Jersey, and a detective there named Anthony Domingo actually had his own setup. He had a medium-sized drone tethered to a power source, and it went up 200 feet in the air. On his viewfinder, we saw some planes going by, but also some objects that just seemed to zip much faster than most planes move. Outside from his radar, we also saw an object hovering over the ocean. This whole setup really attracted a lot of residents. We were able to speak with them and some other New Jersey residents in Essex County. Here's what they had to say.
What are your thoughts on all this drone news?
Oh boy, it's sort of scary. I mean, I don't really know what to think about it.
Why haven't they found the origin of the drone? I don't know why that's a hard thing to do.
I think it's definitely an overreaction. I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Yeah, I feel frustrated. I mean, I think we deserve answers to what's flying around in the air by our homes, and it's frustrating.
All the residents really told me that if they just had some clear answers from the government, some of these fears and confusion could be put to rest. Gadi?
I am so the second guy. Like, why is it so hard? Did you see the drone through the viewfinder? What did it look like?
I did. The one I saw in the viewfinder was with the thermal camera that the detective was using. It was kind of zipping by. We saw a plane moving like this and then another smaller object under it. And then the one we saw over the ocean was kind of this steady reddish light that when we zoomed in on it just appeared to be a drone. It didn't look like a plane. It didn't look like anything else. Gadi?
And there's a lot going on. Obviously, there are national security concerns for a lot of lawmakers right now, but also, Maya, you know, I mean, this is a day and age where something going viral on social media, that means you make a lot of money from it, and there's this whole incentive structure there. How is that complicating the search for answers when we have so much information to sift through?
It's complicating and confusing a lot of people. We know that several of those viral videos going on around online have been made using artificial intelligence, and it takes officials a really, really long time to sort through and kind of verify what's real and what's fake. We did hear from an FBI official over the weekend that said a majority of these reported drone sightings are actually just small planes, or some of them are even just recreational drones. So again, some misinformation, some confusion going on around online. And I think everyone just wants to know what it is. That's all they're asking. Can we get some definitive answers? The FBI also saying that there's no active threat to the public at this time, but still some unanswered questions as to where some of these unidentifiable objects are coming from. Gadi?
And we were just playing some of that video where you have the forward-looking infrared camera looking towards the ocean. There it is right there. I mean, there is tech to be able to defend against drones and detect drones. It's not necessarily deployed in New Jersey. It is deployed in sensitive sites. Is there any talk of, you know, putting those forward-looking infrared cameras up or those sensor suites up in places around New Jersey so they can capture what's going on a nightly basis?
Well, we heard from Governor Kathy Hochul of New York, who said that the federal government is going to be sending additional drone detection systems to the state. Those are being created by Robin's Radar, and they have increased capabilities than the systems that the state is currently using. The new radars basically have a 360-degree view of some of these drones. Right now, we're seeing more linear radar systems. So her and other local officials are really pressuring the Biden administration and Congress to increase resources and access for local officials to increase this search and try to get to the bottom of it. Gadi?
On the ground reporting, such incredible stuff. Maya Eaglin, thank you. And tonight we are joined by Sergeant Kevin Finnessy. He is the drone commander for the Ocean County Sheriff's Department in New Jersey. Maya was actually out with members of this team earlier this weekend. Sergeant, thank you so much for being with us tonight. You all have been on the literal front line of this mystery night after night. What are the patterns that you're seeing that concern you the most here?
Hey, so when we started out last week, we were, setting up on higher areas around here. And we saw a few, and then we moved to where she was in Seaside Heights. And that's when, Thursday night I was out there. We started seeing some unusual flashing lights that we weren't able to identify out there.
And one of the things, I mean, so many people are jumping into this conversation and they're saying, you know what, there's nothing to see because everybody is being confused by air traffic that's coming in. And then there are some that are like, no, everything up in the air, they're all drones. It's difficult. And yet I look at your work and this is verifiable work. You guys have forward-looking infrared. You have a tethered drone. How are you confirming what's a drone and what isn't out there?
So we'll use software such as like flight radar, ADSB. You know, every plane that's out there that's over a certain height has to be broadcasting through ADSB. So we'll use that information and we'll try and see, you know, whatever we come across. Is that an actual plane that's flying by, or is it, you know, something that could be a drone? Here where we are on the Jersey Shore, you know, we have a lot of planes. We have, you know, everything going to JFK goes right along the coast here. Then mix in Philadelphia Airport going across us, add in some of Newark Airport, and then we'll throw in the Joint Base by us, you know, McGuire, Dixon, Lakers. So we have a lot of planes. But as we see these sightings, we'll go on to these other systems and we'll try and mitigate and see, is it a plane or is it, you know, a drone or something else that we can't figure out?
And when it comes to the drones, what are the characteristics that they're displaying there?
It's kind of a little different, you know. We'll see them where they have red and green lights, or they just have green lights, or, you know, they're flashing white lights with the green, you know. Some of them hover and they seem like smaller quadcopters. Some of them seem bigger, like larger fixed wing. And the larger fixed wing ones seem, you know, 6 feet wide, some bigger. You know, but especially over the past few days, you know, there's no like standard from each one, you know?
Yeah, you never know what you're going to get. And how many of these are coming from the ocean or over the water towards land?
So that's where we've been for the past few days. Probably a good portion of last week, we set up down towards the beach, and that's where we've seen the most. You know, along the beach, off of the ocean. You know, I don't know if it's just clearer there, but that's where we've had a lot of sightings. Now, we'll get calls to our agency, though, throughout the county. And, you know, as much as possible, we'll send people out there to try and take a look at them, document them, see if they can, you know, report back anything to us, any of our guys. But right now, it's just document and whatever we can, you know, push forward out to our federal and state partners.
Does it feel like you guys are getting closer to getting answers? I know that so many people that are watching, you know, they understand, like, you scan in, you lock in on a drone, but they don't know what happens after you watch it. Like, does it disappear? Is the search called off? Like, how do you lose contact?
These drones are moving faster than ours. You know, we've got good cameras on our drones, you know, great ones, but they can only zoom in so much. And sorry, that's
I hear your partner back there. Yeah, the K9 partner. He's like, all right, enough with this talk. He's like, we got to get back to business. We got drones to chase down.
So back to that. So they're moving quick. We're zooming in. And although our cameras are great at night, during the daytime, they're not that great. Or I'm sorry, switch that. They're good during the daytime, but at nighttime, they're not that great. So when we're zooming in far, you know, they get distorted. Following them, it's not something, you know, that we can actually, like, it's hard to keep a camera on it. And then we've had instances where all of a sudden they disappear. They shut the lights off and they're gone.
Yeah, so, such a weird, odd mystery. Do you think that do you have the resources that you need right now to get to the bottom of this?
We've got everything we have out here, but I mean, we don't have, you know, mitigation technology. We're not, you know, we're not permitted to have mitigation technology. Radar, you know, what we have isn't what, you know, we can track them and see where they're coming or where they're going from what the equipment that we have.
Got it. If only your partner back there could fly. Our thanks to him. Please give him a treat from us all tonight. Sergeant, thanks so much for joining us, and good luck with the search. Meanwhile, over on the TikTok front, the app is asking the Supreme Court to save them from either a ban or a sale that is getting closer by the day. The deadline is now 34 days away. TikTokers are having a lot of feelings about it.
We have our own jokes here on TikTok. We can't take our inside jokes other places. So I'm gonna need y'all to go ahead and make a deal. Who else can y'all call? Oprah. Oprah got money on.
Like within the first 48 hours, like I'm gonna start getting itchy and sweating. I'll probably go over to like Reels and Shorts to try and simulate the feeling, but it's not gonna be the same.
God, I feel so dumb crying about this. So thank you guys. I know a lot of people feel this way. It sucks, but whatever.
In a statement posted on rival social media company X, TikTok is arguing banning the app would not only violate the First Amendment, but small businesses and content creators would suffer losses of up to billions of dollars in revenue. Still, House committee members are reminding Apple and Google that they will have to comply and remove the app from the app stores if ByteDance does not sell by January 19th. This all comes as President-elect Donald Trump is meeting with TikTok CEO today at Mar-a-Lago, hours after Trump said he had a warm spot for the app, considering how useful it was during his campaign. Joining us now is NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalas. Okay, Danny, so we're hearing about Trump's warm spot, which is interesting considering he was very for the ban for a while. Let's just say dinner with Trump at Mar-a-Lago goes extremely well for the TikTok CEO, and Trump decides, okay, I'm going to try to save TikTok. Does he have the power to do that while all this is in the judiciary?
He doesn't have any power when he's not the president, before he's president, but he actually does have quite a bit of power if TikTok can delay this until after Trump takes office. And once the law is in effect, the president has a lot of power in determining to what degree the law is even enforced. Just to give an example, marijuana is still illegal under federal law, and yet states openly flout it because the federal government said, well, we're just not going to enforce that particular law. So the president, as the head of the executive branch, has that same power, and he has the discretion to not only decide whether or not to enforce the law if it goes into effect, but also what is essentially covered under the law. So this is something that the president has tremendous power under this particular statute. So TikTok has every incentive to try and delay this as long as they humanly can.
And so let's say they don't delay it. Would the president-elect be able to say, we're not going to enforce this even when I'm president?
Yes, but it would probably cost TikTok a lot in money and resources if the law goes into effect, they're required to divest. I don't know how that would work in a matter of, days or so. And really, they don't have any guarantee that Donald Trump's going to ride in to their rescue. So they really need to fight this on every front. They need to fight it on the legal front and assume that Donald Trump will not be a friend to TikTok, keep fighting at the Supreme Court and try to at least delay, and not because delay is generally a litigation strategy. Delay actually helps them here because of all the tight deadlines. We're talking January. All this is happening in January, inauguration, the law going into effect. So TikTok would benefit from a delay. That's what they're seeking. That's what they're hoping for.
And do American TikTokers have any, I don't know, legal standing or legal recourse here?
So this is an argument TikTok made, that not only does this law infringe upon TikTok's First Amendment rights, but also the user's access to a platform and thereby infringing on the user's First Amendment rights. Now, is it a traditional application of the First Amendment? Of course not, because this is emerging technology, and the law is always behind emerging technology. It would be impossible to legislate in advance of technology. We always have to wait and see what it does, and then fumfer around with it, make our mistakes, and then eventually, probably about 5 years behind the technology, come up with some legal resolution that somewhat matches what the technology needs, hopefully.
Did you just say fumfer? Because I think that is the perfect description of what we're seeing.
It's a Latin term.
Danny Savalas, thank you. And we're following some breaking news. Trump's guilty verdict in his New York hush money case, that is staying put for now. A judge has denied Trump's bid to have the verdict vacated on presidential immunity grounds. Judge Juan Merchan wrote in the ruling simply saying he did not agree. Trump's team has been fighting against the president-elect's legal troubles after the Supreme Court expanded the scope of presidential immunity earlier this year. And you'll remember that Trump was convicted in May on 34 counts of falsifying business records. Those were related to hush money payments to his former lawyer paid to porn star Stormy Daniels back in 2016. We're going to keep following that. Don't go anywhere. Coming up next, a wild weekend of weather here in the West Coast. That is a little bit of a tongue twister. A tornado causing a big old mess outside of Santa Cruz. So what is going on there and what to keep an eye on as we get into the busiest travel stretch of the year? And later this hour, did you know that the bald eagle is not the national bird? I know, it's crazy. We did not know that either. And we are going to introduce you to the man who is making it his life's work to make sure that the bald eagle gets the recognition we all thought it already had. That's tonight. Stay wild, so stay tuned.
See more than an eagle. We see freedom. We see independence. We see power.
Hey, welcome back. Let's take a quick look around the world. South Korea's president just can't stop making news. There was the martial law thing, then impeachment. Now he has reportedly failed to obey a summons from prosecutors in that country. He was a no-show for questioning yesterday. President Yoon is being investigated on charges which include insurrection, and prosecutors say they plan to issue another summons for the president there. And more political problems happening in Germany, where Chancellor Olaf Scholz just lost his confidence vote. This has triggered a breakdown in parliament and set the stage for new elections in February. But there is a twist. Some experts say this is what Scholz had hoped for. If he loses a no-confidence vote now, he wins the elections later, possibly. It looks like another episode of possible alcohol poisoning overseas, this time in Fiji, where 7 tourists, including 1 American, were taken to a hospital after having some drinks at a 5-star resort. Local reports say 5 of the 7 have now been released. And a similar thing happened in Laos last month, where 6 tourists died after drinking alcohol tainted with methanol. And a woman was arrested in Iran after posting a video of herself singing without a hijab. State-run media says that the woman has since been released after an interview with police. She was arrested because of a new law passed back in September that requires women to wear hijabs even in online spaces. And Syrian President Bashar al-Assad is speaking out tonight, 8 days after fleeing his country to Russia. Meanwhile, as more and more Syrians get freed, their stories are coming to light. NBC's Richard Engel has more.
Bashar al-Assad offered his version of events tonight, a week after he was overthrown. In a statement, Assad claimed he was overseeing combat operations against the rebels he called terrorists and only left after a Russian commander ordered him to evacuate for his safety. At no point during these events did I consider stepping down or seeking refuge, Assad said on the Syrian presidency Telegram channel, although we cannot verify if Assad still controls the account. He said nothing about the mass graves now being uncovered daily or the more than 100,000 Syrians still missing.
She just handed me this. She said, please, please, please put this one on camera. Everyone here is hoping beyond hope. But what's so disturbing is not a single person here has said that they've received a phone call.
Samira Zakur is looking for her son, Rashid. I've been searching for him for 11 years now, she says. Some reunions are happening. These 2 cousins were freed by the rebels from a regime prison. They say they were savagely tortured.
Said they used scissors to just cut off his fingers.
These men were in the Saydnaya prison, where we reported last week how detainees described how Assad's guards used the hydraulic press to torture and kill people. They told me they heard the press and the screams, and that now they are restarting their lives with children who barely know them.
Syrians are demanding that Assad be returned from Moscow so he can be tried here for war crimes. It's unlikely Putin will hand over his former ally.
Powerful reporting there from Richard Engel. Richard, thank you. And coming up, we're talking about the tech that is up to no good this holiday season, how so-called Grinch bots are grabbing in-demand gifts before, people can. That's coming up in tonight's Future of Everything, so don't go anywhere. Hey, welcome back. And here's some of the other headlines we're watching tonight. Today, Trump said the Japanese tech company SoftBank will invest $100 billion in various U.S. projects. And according to the president-elect, it's supposed to create some 100,000 jobs. It looks like this is going to be in support of the AI boom, at least according to those familiar with the company's plans. And RFK Jr. was on the Hill today, kicking off some key meetings with senators who could make or break his nomination to lead HHS. He plans to meet with over 24 Republican senators this week in the lead up to his confirmation hearing, where he is likely to face some tough questions about his vaccine skepticism. And it looks like Amazon workers could strike during peak holiday season. And today, workers at Amazon delivery station in Illinois voted just to do that. The union gave Amazon until December 15th, which was yesterday, to come to the table and bargain for a contract. And a stranded jet skier in Florida was rescued over the weekend. The man apparently fell off his jet ski in rough waters. He was later spotted clinging to some rocks. The Coast Guard pulled off this rescue that you see right here, and the Florida man only had some minor injuries. And the adult obesity rate has dropped in the United States for the first time in more than a decade. Possible reason? Medications like Ozempic. A new study found that the country's obesity rate ticked down about 4 percentage points from last year, though it seems like it's too early to tell if this is leading to some sort of skinnier trend. And here's something you don't hear very often. California was hit by a tornado over the weekend, and it definitely caught a lot of people off guard.
Holy oh my God. Okay, oh my God. Oh my God.
Scary stuff there. The rare twister hit peak 90-mile-an-hour winds and was spotted in Scotts Valley on Saturday. That's up near the Bay Area. 5 people were hurt. Cars, trees, and power lines were scattered around, and other cities saw heavy flooding from the same storm system that stirred up from that twister, and it led to San Francisco's first ever tornado warning in recorded history, although one didn't actually touch down there. Let's bring in NBC News meteorologist Bill Cairns. Bill, tornadoes in California, that's not unheard of, but what fueled this one?
I mean, this was pretty strong. I mean, we're lucky that we didn't have any fatalities, Gadi. I mean, this hit a very populated downtown, might as well have been Main Street at a shopping mall. I mean, we had cars that were flipped. So here's the situation. This is going back to Saturday. You can actually see the spin of the storm here. The first thing that happened is we had intense winds. When we had that tornado warning in the San Francisco area, we had winds to 70 to 80 miles per hour. I mean, the tornado was 90. 70 to 80 is not that far behind. And then at the very tail end here, right on this, this is Santa Cruz here. And then just as we go north about 6 miles from there, up in the Santa Cruz Mountains, that's where this tornado hit. And you can see it right here, Scotts Valley. It was under a severe thunderstorm warning, not a tornado warning. It's just so rare, and it was kind of small too, so hard for the radar to see, especially at high elevations. But it was on the ground for about 5 minutes. We know it was an EF1. It was only about 30 yards wide, and that kind of helped things, minimize the damage. But I said it went right down Main Street. It's called Mount Harmon Road here. That storm system is long gone. We did have some additional rain in that area today, and we still have a little bit of heavy rain and snow at the high elevations there in the central portion of the Sierra, Gadi. But only 11 tornadoes on average happen a year in California. And I can tell you, usually none of those are where this one hit.
Yeah, we're about to hit another round of holiday travel down the road here. Anything you see brewing out there that could throw a total wrench in all of that?
Pacific Northwest. That's where all our travel trouble is going to be. It looks like we're going to have numerous rounds of atmospheric rivers coming in, probably a storm every 2 or 3 days, right through Christmas and right through New Year's. So that's going to be the worst. So as we go through Friday, it's really quiet, but here comes that next storm. And once again, all of these are going to miss the southern half of California. It's going to be San Francisco northwards that we're going to see all the heaviest rain, snow, wind impacts, and then the Pacific Northwest, too. That's in the Sunday. And as we look towards the extended forecast, let's talk a little bit about the chances for a white Christmas out there. This is historically, if you're in the blue, it's like 25 to 50%. Only the northern half of the country typically sees a white Christmas. Of course, if you're in the mountains here in the west, normally you get it if you go up high enough in elevation. But what we're dealing with this next 6 to 10 days, look at this forecast for the western half of the country. Much warmer than normal everywhere, Gadi. So, if you don't have snow on the ground now, odds are you probably won't get it.
Yeah, that weather map is matching Santa Claus's outfit this year.
That's right.
Bill Cairns, thank you. And still ahead, hitting the road to one of the most iconic routes in the United States, Route 66. Now, traffic might have slowed down a long time ago, but that is not stopping one family from trying to restore it to its glory days. Our Morgan Chesky takes us there. But first, you gotta see this. Would-be thieves on a would-be heist, walking away with nothing. This is video out of Washington State. The two men crashing their truck to the front of a Walgreens in an attempt to steal that ATM there. They are working so hard, wrapping a cable around the machine, attaching it to the truck, but then the suspects hit the gas and all they do is, well, they split the machine in two, but the part with the cash was locked on the floor, so the pair drove away with nothing. We'll be right back. Hey, welcome back. A trip through time is coming up, but here are some of the stories happening out in the West that we're following right now. A New Mexico teenager is accused of killing 4 family members. Police say the 16-year-old's mother, father, and teen brothers were found dead in their home in Belen. It's about 30 miles outside of Albuquerque. The suspect surrendered to police, and they say he was extremely intoxicated when he gave himself up. He is now charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder. And a Border Protection helicopter crashed outside San Diego this morning, killing the pilot. This happened in farmland near Potrero, and the pilot was the only person on board. No one else was hurt. And schools have reopened in Malibu after that wildfire canceled classes last week. Fire officials say the Franklin fire is now more than 50% contained, and all road closures and restrictions in that area have finally been lifted. Meanwhile, tonight, we are taking a trip down old Route 66 to a ghost town in the Mojave Desert with more famous signs than it has people. But there is hope for a big comeback, and NBC's Morgan Chesky hit the road to meet the man fighting to save a town's legacy and fulfill a family's dream.
We were somewhere around Barstow, on the edge of the desert, when the nostalgia began to take hold. California, a place where you can chase the past, knowing you'll never quite catch it. A place that on this morning is population 1. Rising from the Mojave, alongside the Mother Road herself, you'll find Roy's Motel and Cafe.
We have all the sand, we just don't have the ocean.
Where head of operations Ken Large does his best to keep a dream alive.
I always tell people it's the most popular hotel where you can't yet stay and cafe where you can't yet eat in the world.
And yet a curious crowd somehow keeps finding its way here.
Long roads like this, it means freedom.
To fuel up and fill up.
A certain amount, or would you like it full, sir?
Drawn by imaginations as endless as the open road.
So this is Amboy.
Famous.
For what?
for being here, I guess.
Amboy's fame, evident in a fading cast of characters. The post office, empty for years. A few abandoned houses, and a church in need of a lot more than just prayer. All relics of a dying Route 66. Roy's is out to define.
What does it take to keep a place like this going in the middle of a desert on a highway that's decades past its prime?
It takes people that are in love with the place.
He comes in the room and he says, hey, Kyle, I'm going to buy a town.
Back in 2005, Kyle Okura's father Albert gave chase at one starry-eyed vision, buying the town for $425,000 and a promise to restore Amboy to its atomic age glory.
that decision that he made at that time, no one understood it.
Including Okura's own family. But the lifelong entrepreneur envisioned the ghost town reborn as a destination steeped in the Americana of seasons past.
Where are you heading to?
With a full staff of 3, they charted a course to turn back the clock, planning renovations for the town's iconic architecture. Long a draw for both filmmakers and musicians. Yet despite that star power and tourists from every corner of the globe, every year, the Okuras and the town kept bleeding money.
There's been days that we would sit late at the office talking, Dad, I can't make it work, this thing. What I realized is when you're in the bottom of the trench, when you find your way out of it, you find a new sense of confidence in what you're doing.
Finally, in 2019, before a crowd of hundreds, they gathered to celebrate the rebirth of Roy's neon sign, a fan favorite since 1959.
When you first saw those lights come back on,
I was amazed. I could just see how happy he was.
But it wasn't long after Okura's vision came into focus. That dream would go dark yet again.
It was sudden, so it wasn't something that anyone was expecting.
Albert Okura, beloved father and Amboy dreamer, died at 71. The unexpected loss still haunting his son.
Everything that I did was for him. It was to show him, to make him proud. That's been the joy of my life.
after losing your dad, how did you process how to take his dream and make it yours?
What I had to do is try to find a way that I can find my own destiny that kind of runs parallel with his.
Now the future of this once grand waypoint becoming Kyle's own.
It looks like they all need a little bit of love.
You know, the bare bones is here. That's what's most important. We can work cottage by cottage, and I think that's what's going to be our goal.
The team installing new plumbing, electrical, and pretty soon, running water. Preparing for a Route 66 birthday, 100 years in the making, and a father's dream come true.
When that final project's finished and Amboy is brought back to life, what would you tell your dad if he was there?
What I'm probably going to do is walk out far in the middle of the desert somewhere and just scream up to the clouds, "Hey, Dad, look at I did it." That's what I would say to him. And that I hope you're proud.
I know he is.
Amid the dust of the unforgiving desert, we're no match for Father Time. And yet the Mother Road still beckons onward.
They don't make them like they used to. They don't make cars like they used to either. Morgan Chesky joins us live in the studio. So Morgan, people are going to be watching this thing and be like, okay, so when is it open? Right. When can we book? What's it looking like?
Yeah, Gadi, hard to believe that in 2026, Route 66 will be 100 years old, and that is why Kyle and his family are trying to get everything back up and running so that those cottages can actually house guests coming out to celebrate that big birthday. Obviously, they've had their work cut out for them for a long time. But let me tell you this, last year for the very first time, Amboy was actually profitable. So the dream is starting to pay off, and hopefully they can stick to the plan, because you get out there, you really do get a sense of the Americana of seasons past. And what I found most striking, Gadi, is that the tourists we ran into were not primarily Americans. They were from every corner of the globe. In just a short time there, we saw a group of motorcycle riders from Brazil traveling down Route 66. We met a group from France that had rented an RV, and they wanted to explore the real America, as they called it that. Everyone searching for, I think, that Wild West that they see in the movies, chasing that nostalgia. And that's why, you know, no matter how much you chase it, you can't quite catch it. But I think just getting a glimpse of it pretty special.
Yeah, pretty special. You can only get your kicks on Route 66.
You said it.
Morgan Chesky, thank you. And before we go, it is time for the future of everything, why the newest meme coin is nothing to turn your nose up at, despite having the word fart right there, front and center. We're going to explain it tonight's headlines. Plus, an American icon about to get some long-deserved recognition. The journey to make the bald eagle our national bird, because right now it's not. Yeah, go ahead, Google it, see if that's right during this break. We did not believe it either. We're going to tell you why it's taken so long in tonight's Stay Wild. Hey, welcome back. And you've all heard how the Grinch stole Christmas, but what about Grinch bots? More on that in just a second. But first, let's talk about crypto. There's Bitcoin, there's Dogecoin, and now someone has ripped a fartcoin. Yes, that is the actual name. The newest meme coin tripled in value over the last week to more than $700 million in a market cap. That's the same as Office Depot and fashion company Guess. Meanwhile, Bitcoin keeps hovering around all-time highs. Just, don't forget about those gas fees. And a new study says that dogs might be able to text us, kind of. In this study, the pooches pressed buttons in 2 or more word combinations, and it's not just random words either, but many sentences like food now or play soon. Researchers say the study gives us more clues into dogs' minds and reveals what they really care about, which could make them even gooder good boys. Meanwhile, remember simpler times when if you wanted to make a little extra cash around the holidays and you had a heart full of coal, you could always just Dwight Schrute it?
Every year I do research to determine which toy will be the most popular of the Christmas season. This year, it's a doll, half girl, half unicorn. I bought at every store in the area over the last couple of weeks. And as lazy parents become more desperate, I will sell them at an enormous profit. Isn't that right, Princess?
That is right, Princess. Well, those days are gone, and even bots are taking the naughtiest of holiday jobs. Enter Grinch bots, as CNBC's Courtney Reagan explains.
Grinch bots are basically mini computer programs designed to buy up items in milliseconds. It's a problem as it creates shortages of high-demand items and increases prices for consumers. But it's also a problem for retailers.
Bots come in, they procure a lot, and suddenly you're out of stock. And now you go, okay, I want to fulfill it. You fulfill it, but actually it wasn't real demand. It was bot demand that was changing what you thought was real demand. And now you may start producing more next year that may or may not get sold.
Not to mention can do some brand damage to retailers as well when they are sold in a reselling website. Now, while these bots have existed for years, Gandhi says generative AI has supercharged them, creating what he calls Grinch swarms. Datadome helps retailers to combat these bots and says the barrier to entry has never been lower, with a steep increase in the last 3 months. The bots usually target high-end, limited edition goods. Think sneakers, gaming consoles, and even likely Target's recent Taylor Swift Eras Tour book. That was in high demand, and there were some shortages of that, too. Now, those CAPTCHA puzzles, image recognition and multi-factor authentication, are meant to, in part at least, stop these bots. But in many cases, the bots figure out workarounds. Cloudflare also helps retailers fight these bots. It observed 6.1 trillion bot requests on Black Friday this year, up from 1.5 trillion in 2021. Now, not all the bots are resellers. Bots can, in fact, be purchased by anyone for as low as $10 to around $400. There are bots as a service and subscription packages as well. The legality can vary. This is not an endorsement to do that. I'm simply just stating that it is possible for these bots to be used by not just resellers, but anyone that is looking to grab a high-demand good very quickly. Courtney Reagan, CNBC Business News.
Another reason not to procrastinate. And finally tonight, my public education failed me big time, because when I think of the country's national bird, I always think of the powerful, the majestic bald eagle. Its picture is everywhere. It's on our money. It's stitched into our military uniforms, on the seal of nearly every federal agency. Even our proud bald eagle memes and a lot of government websites will actually tell you that the bald eagle is America's national bird, except It is not. But there is one man trying to change that, and Congress has taken notice. NBC News correspondent Ryan Nobles tells us how in tonight's Stay Wild.
On the banks of the Mississippi, a sleepy town in Minnesota has a unique tie to one of America's most iconic symbols.
I've been wrong all these years, and so has everybody else in the country.
At least they thought they did.
I mean, were you shocked to find out that it wasn't already the national bird?
I was shocked, yes. I think everybody's shocked.
The bald eagle is featured on the Great Seal of the United States and all over uniforms, flags, insignias, and government buildings. But it's never officially been named the country's national bird.
My teacher told me it was.
Yeah, we might need to go rewrite a few textbooks.
We have a national tree, a national mammal, even a national flower. And yet the eagle has never received its official title. But in Wabasha, it was one man, Preston Cook, who discovered the omission while researching for a book and is working to fix it.
If you ask the question to anybody on the street, they're going to give you the same answer. It's the bald eagle.
We have no national bird, right?
We've never had a national bird.
To put it mildly, Cook is obsessed with the bald eagle.
If it had an eagle on it, I'd buy it.
Starting in 1966, Preston collected anything he could with an eagle on it. His collection has grown to more than 40,000 pieces.
We see more than an eagle. We see freedom. We see independence. We see power.
So Preston set out on a mission. Partnering with Wabasha's National Eagle Center, he wrote a bill that makes the eagle the national bird.
Preston Cook brought that up to us years ago, and it was like, oh, come on, Preston, you're kidding me. So I'm glad that we're now figuring that out and making that happen.
In late July, the Senate passed the bill 100-0, a rare feat in today's partisan Congress, and the House could take it up as soon as tonight. An amazing comeback for an amazing creature who almost 250 years later is finally getting the status it has already earned. Ryan Nobles, NBC News, Wabasha, Minnesota.
I mean, about time someone addresses such a bald-faced lie we've all been told. The indignation. That's going to do it for us tonight. I'm Gadi Schwartz. We'll see you here tomorrow, but until then, stay tuned now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.